Weird War Tales, an underrated gem of the Bronze Age, Part 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the comic book community. Welcome back to Mastodon Comics and Music. Uh, Thank you for joining me for the first episode of a journey through a series that I'm very passionate about uh, for various reasons that I'm kind of gonna go over here. Um, this book is something from my childhood, not necessarily meaning that I was around when they first came out. I was not, um, but they were books that I had some of these books as a kid. My parents went to auctions every Tuesday night, and they came back one night. I've told this story before. They came back one night, and they had a box full of books, and one of them was one title was Sergeant Fury and Italian Commandos. The reprint uh, part of that run that came in after issue 120, and the other title was Weird War Tales. Um, about 15 to 20 books. I can't remember specifically how many issues there were, um, but those two titles have stuck with me into adulthood, as with majority of my childhood collection. Um, Weird War Tales has always kind of stuck out to me, held a special place because of that, because my parents got those for me, and because the stories within those books stand out to me. Weird War Tales is not specifically. It's kind of a half and half. It's a war book, but it's also a horror book. It's also a mystery book. So it's kind of a a mixture of different elements from that era. Um, the goal of this uh, series is to have kind of a central theme per episode. This one being basically the introduction to the series, um, uh, background information on Weird War Tales, and uh, setting up what my plans for for the future of this ongoing series. So I hope you'll continue to join me on uh, this this journey. Um, with each episode, I plan on hand picking out um, a story from one of the issues to go over, show you the interiors, and my goal is to do that towards the end of the episode. So if you'll stick with me till the end, hopefully you'll enjoy what I show from the interiors of one of the books. Um, this series uh, began ran for 12 years, 124 issues. There were no annuals, although it would have been neat to have seen what they would have done. Um, Beginning in September of 1971, and it ran all the way to June of 1983. Obviously published by DC Comics. Um, they Beginning of the series, they featured reprints um, from older books like GI Comics, Combat, and Star Spangled War Stories. Um, it was an anthology series, much like a lot of the DC Bronze Age things, books of this type, like House of Mystery and House of Secrets. Um, and a la EC Comics, those old uh, 50s horror books. It was hosted by Death himself. Um, the series also featured uh, various creators throughout its run. Golden Age artists and writers like Frank Springer, George Tallock, and Jack Olek. I know Olek came towards the later part of the Golden Age, but and it also featured up and comers such as Frank Miller and J.M. DeMatteis and Tony DeZuniga. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Um, for Frank Miller, it was his first work for DC Comics, and I think comics in general. So he cut his teeth on Weird War. And while the majority of the series, the covers were done by Joe Kubert, he was also joined by another Bronze Age great, Argentina's own Luis Dominguez, one of my favorites, probably one of my top 5 favorite cover artists of all time, and also classic artists like Nick Cardy and George Evans and Mike Kaluta uh, did work on this title. The first 7 issues, which is the theme for what I'm doing with this first episode, is the first 7 issues were all done by Joe Kubert. The covers, the majority of the interiors on those, with the exception of the reprinted stories, were all done by Joe Kubert, the big man himself. For instance, this issue is one of his, obviously Joe's work, his classic war style work, and this is also the cover story of the issue. And I will be, if you stick around for the end of the video, that will be the feature story. I bounced around in my head trying to figure out which one I wanted to do of these books, which story I wanted to feature, and I thought perfect. The issue 1 that kicked it off, the story behind the cover was kind of the given. But issue 1, and I always like the first few issues. The first sensational issue of Weird War Tales. This is always something that stuck out to me. The interior of the Weird had soldiers and skeletons and stuff like that throughout it. Issue 2, great, beautiful red cover. The Western Union telegram, a staple that unfortunately a lot of people received in those days. You either received a telegram, the loss of a loved one, or someone from a representative from the military would visit you. And this cover story deals with those that are left behind as a result of war. Classic cover on issue 3. I've seen other people bring this one up, talk about this issue. It's a great cover story as well. The third gut grabbing issue, and also the first 5 issues in particular were double sized. I think they had seven or eight stories in them. Um, with the exception of the first issue, I think only had three or four stories, but they were expanded. This issue, a friend of mine had pointed out he loved that cover. This is also a great cover story, and I had considered doing this cover or this story. I may yet do maybe a sub video of showing off the interiors and so forth. Um, and that, with that being said, if there's any that I show that are uh, that you would like to see, I would gladly do a separate video and show the interiors. Just feel free to leave a comment below on that. This one I always kind of like that green background and the ghost appearance and this gentleman here preparing to be executed. They think they're hanging me, but they're not. And something I thought was kind of interesting was maybe some foreshadowing, but N. Adams, as you'll see, Neil Adams did, and it's the only cover in the run that he did, the cover for issue 8, and a fantastic story on issue 8 as well. Starting with issue 6, they drop back down to a normal sized issue with 28 pages or what have you, 24 pages I think it was. And also dropped the price back down to 20 cents, although I don't believe for very long. First in DC, first in comics, best in comics was the tag with DC. And this is a great issue, a great cover story. Kind of put me in mind of maybe an idea that they later brought in with GI Robot in the series. And the final issue of this this episode, the 7th great issue of Weird War Tales. Also a great cover story, that ominous kind of a throwback to the old pre-code horror with that ominous skeletal hand reaching out to someone who cannot see as they are in war, trying to survive. So that concludes this portion of it, and I hope if you've been here this long, I hope you stick around for the interiors of the story behind the cover. All right, so continuing with this, I thought it kind of cool to highlight the back cover ad. This neat little racetrack, high speed cornering and banking curves, sizzlers, cars running on a fat track. I thought that was kind of neat. Mattel advertising on the book. So again, cover, the cover story, Joe Kubert. Now the opening story didn't really wasn't really hosted by Death per se, but you got an inkling of the presence. Just that fantastic Joe Kubert art. The fort which did not return. This is one of the reprinted stories. I think this was from GI Combat, but I'm not positive. I mean, even some of the reprinted uh, stories like this, even going back, um, just fantastic. I mean, this panel right here, absolutely gorgeous. The camera doesn't do it justice. But as you can see, this story was quite a few pages. A great ad. Um, Go and grab bag free bag. Finish high school at home. That's another classic from that era. But here we are. The story behind the cover. Um, so the story behind the cover. Uh, September 1971, obviously. Written and penciled by Joe Kubert. As much of the book. It details. It's just a 4-page story, but it details a patrol uh, led by the main character Lance Corporal Mueller. So it's based on a uh, a German officer, a German, I guess corporal isn't an officer, but a German soldier who was placed in a command that he didn't necessarily want. Um, and on this patrol, uh, they come into conflict with American soldiers, and a grenade is thrown, and uh, everyone we're led to believe that everyone dies except for uh, Corporal Mueller. He gets up and he runs back to command to report what had happened, and he's met with silence from his CO, um, and he tries to go and talk. He assumes that he's in a lot of trouble. He tries to explain to fellow soldiers what happened and what caused the failure of this patrol. Um, and he uh, goes on, and by page 4, we discover that he did not survive. Uh, he continues to fight, plagued by the guilt of the failure of his command, of his the patrol that he was placed in charge of. A very eerie final image, obviously, which is the cover of this series of this book, this first issue. And down in the bottom, if I can bring it up close, the little badge that says "Make War No More." Um, so right from the onset of this book, uh, you get the sense that this is kind of a statement against war, um, which is I consider that a good thing. Nobody actually wants war. The only people who want war are the war makers themselves, those that send uh, people like you and I into battle. Um, so, uh, and then young young soldiers like Corporal Mueller are placed in situations and that they don't want to be in, or they're not ready to be in, and uh, at the end they're um, not uh, they're stressed uh, for for failing in their duties, because they do want to serve uh, their their leaders, their country, or whatever. Um, but that concludes this episode of Weird War Tales, an underrated gem of the Bronze Age. I hope you will continue to join me on this journey. And if there's any stories that you would like me to highlight or show the interiors to, I can also do that. Please leave a comment in the comment section below, and I will do that. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. In the meantime, keep collecting, keep reading, and keep sharing.